We're just ordinary people living ordinary lives until we see someone on TV win a $25,000 prize. Come on down. I'll play any game for 10 seconds of fame. Come on down. I'll make a deal, just let me spin the wheel. Come on down. To win $1 million, all you need is a little luck and thorough knowledge of multiple disparate trivial subjects.
All right, welcome to an all-new episode of Come On Down, the Game Show podcast, hosted by me, John Baker.
And me, a grumpy Jonathan Mottney.
Why are you grumpy?
Haven't had lunch yet.
Why not?
Haven't had time.
What have you been doing?
Not eating. And now I'm upset. And this entire episode is going to be me being snarky. And you're going to have to deal with it.
All right. Hey.
This is what happens in a friendship and a relationship. If you can't take me at my grumpiest, then guess what?
What?
I'm not going to change. I'm not going to make the steps to make that change for me personally. You're going to
So
have
it's
to deal
just
with
my
it.
problem to deal
It's
with?
just your problem now.
Thank you for clarifying.
That's what I think girls should write on their dating profiles when they actually write that down. Mm-hmm. Or, and guys too, but, I usually see it when I was on dating profiles.
Right. Way back. Centuries.
So, yeah.
The Fall Out Boy song. Today we placed an order for a gong for the program.
Oh, we did.
And it has not arrived. So, unfortunately, we're just going to cancel the show today.
Was it a full-size gong?
Yeah.
You wouldn't order some puny little baby gong.
84 by 96 inches.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a healthy size.
Obviously. So, today we're going to be talking about the Gong Show.
I assume we'll have some sound effects in there. Maybe if we do a good or a bad, if we do a bad joke, I think we should put a gong in there.
We get gonged. All right. So before we jump in,
let me see that gong.
That was good.
Oh, I was hoping that we could get a gong right off the bat.
Oh, I mean, boo.
Who's the judge for the gong? It would be the other person.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
So we've got an ad first that came in very hot and late. I saw you typing a lot. I guess it was an email reply.
I was replying, thank you so much. But I was also, at the end, it was stern because I said,
we got to get these sooner. You're delaying
these
the
cannot
taping.
come in this late.
Okay.
This cannot happen.
I appreciate that. All right. So TLC, wow, timely. TLC was a powerful group of singers and leaders in our culture. What TLC says goes.
And they used their power for evil back in 1999. TLC used their power to take the wind out of the sails of every single scrub in the United States and abroad.
Scrubs were made second-class citizens in an instant, and they've been fighting for their respect ever since.
Scrub No Mo was created by the King Scrub to give every scrub in the world a fighting chance at a happy life.
The Scrub No Mo program is simple. You sign up for a membership and submit a picture of yourself to the SNM team. SNM, just to be clear, not and.
Yeah, that would be
different team.
Total different team.
SNM team. They'll go into their database of scrubs and match you with the perfect match.
Within 2 weeks, you'll receive your personal scrub, an uglier, more annoying, and stupider version of yourself.
Now that dumbass scrub hanging out your window trying to holla at women isn't you anymore.
You're the fuck...
That's still mine.
That's still yours. I like that.
You're the fuckable, respectable member of your two-person entourage. Start your journey out of scrubhood and upgrade your status today.
Come On Down members receive 2 scrubs for the price of 1 with the code SCRUBONDOWN at checkout.
Scrub no mo. Scrub your image and become the slightly less creepy guy from that TLC song today.
Wow.
That was timely. That's just right on the zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm.
Just real topical. And
Topical?
Topical?
Oh, topical.
Like a treatment that you would put on a rash or something. Topical. And yeah, I mean, it read like a first draft for some reason.
I don't think it did.
Okay.
I didn't see a single typo in it. That's for sure.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Where? The no-mo?
Sail was spelt like the thing that you get at a store rather than the thing that's on your boat.
Yeah. You can't get a sail in a store?
You can't get wind in it.
You could definitely get wind in a sail. That's for sure.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the Gong Show. We've got some update in the game show news world.
You sure?
You know, what's his name? Mike Richards. Remember he got out of Jeopardy?
Right.
The word is...
And he went straight up to the stage and did a performance of some stand-up and also got canceled for the second time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a weird choice for him.
I know.
So now the reports are that Ken Jennings is now the front runner.
Why not Marlene Balsakins?
So she's got a TV show. Mm-hmm. So there's some apparently scheduling issues to work around that she can't maybe do it every single day. So
she can't maybe do it every single day?
She maybe can't. I don't know. But she's going to be the new guest host again while they figure out their final hosting, which is just a total shit show because they should... Hey, guess what? Alex Trebek was going to die of cancer. Everybody knew it. People wanted to deny it. You wanted to put it out of your mind. Mm-hmm. But it was inevitable. He had stage 4 cancer that was treated and then returned. He was going to die. And the fact that they just had no plan in place afterwards is kind of embarrassing, guys.
You would think that from his perspective...
Like he'd want to be involved in those conversations?
Yeah, would want to feel like there's a plan in place so he can die peacefully because I imagine I hope that his spirit is haunting that studio. I would be pissed. Yeah. I imagine there's no happy ghosts that do goofy things. It's usually someone that is there that has been murdered or has had a troubled end to their life on Earth.
I read an interesting article by a past Jeopardy champion who was an 11-time champion. I can't remember his name, but he kind of pioneered the jump around the board looking for daily doubles thing that James Holzhauer later made more famous and successful by winning like a couple $1 million doing that. But it was a new thing that had never really been done before, and people got upset about it at the time.
Change.
Like watching it.
Don't like change.
So he wrote an article that was interesting because it was all about how Jeopardy is kind of the one thing on TV where throughout its entire time, like Alex Trebek was always the host of the show or has been the host of the show for the last 35, 40 years, whatever it's been.
Yeah.
But he never made himself the star of the show. Like people didn't tune in because they were like, I want to see what Alex Trebek is up to today. They tuned in because they wanted to play the game themselves, or there was a Ken Jennings or a James Holzhauer or whatever on the show that it's like, oh God, this guy's won so many in a row. Let's tune in and watch out.
Yeah.
It becomes, the national story of these quote unquote smart people answering trivia questions. And what they've done over the last 9 months or so is like, look at this star who's the host of the show, and people are tuning in to watch who's the host of the show rather than to watch the show and the contestants of the show, which seems to be not what Alex Trebek would have wanted based on him not making the show be about himself. So, way to fuck it up, guys.
Well, then he shouldn't have gotten cancer because that kind of made it about him for the past 6 months.
That was kind of a dick move. But so allegedly also word has come out that Ken Jennings was initially shied away from because of a controversial tweet from 2014.
Lord.
Where he tweeted, there's nothing sadder.
I hate bread.
He tweeted, there's nothing sadder than an attractive person in a wheelchair. Which is kind of funny. Because you laughed at it.
Also, though, there's nothing sadder?
Nothing sadder.
That's the saddest?
There's nothing sadder than an attractive person in a wheelchair. And so people, that ableist tweet of his got him in some hot water with the executives, or I don't know.
What is
Who
it?
cares?
What this machine, this cancel machine that is currently happening?
Cancer with Alex Trebek?
Why do they...
He should have got a cancer machine.
Why do they... Gong.
Oh, damn it.
No, I'm just kidding. Take the gong away. That was funny. Why do they wait for these... Like, Ken Jennings was winning hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, right.
So why now does this come out? Why it's... I don't know what it is, but it's about like they wait for people to have an opportunity to get a job. And then that's when they feel that...
Takes. The answer is takes. all these bloggers. The
Is it the bloggers? Where does the cancel come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Vox, the BuzzFeed, the
Slate,
those type of people, who went to journalism school, didn't develop any real discernible skill, and don't have anything to add positively to society. They make these blogs where, in order to get as much advertising revenue as possible, they just say the most absurd, over the top things all the time to get people to click on their articles.
Yeah.
Like an article that I saw just a couple weeks ago that was about how you shouldn't read on the beach, how bad it is to read on the beach. It's a take factory. It's like, what ridiculous take can we come up with today?
Well, what was the reasoning for the reading?
So I share this with my wife, Erica, and
can I guess it real quick? Can I just try to see if I can get it?
I guess, yeah.
You show privilege reading on a beach because you're not there taking in all the scenery.
Okay, so my wife asked me as well, what's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, because I refuse to click on it and give them what they want. I only read the headline, and I will not click on it and support their manipulation.
Well,
and their
now
bullshit,
your
so
principles have led us into a brick wall in this topic.
I'm sorry,
but
I had to hold steady there.
I know,
that one really pissed me off. So that's what it is. It's just all these people.
Email us comeondownshow@gmail.com. Let us know what that article said, because you know what? I'm going to stand by my host here, and I'm gonna say I'm not going to click on it either.
Thank you. So it's basically a cycle, I think, because what happens is, and you'll see this often on all of these blog sites.
Are we recording?
Yes,
okay.
Arguably. So people will make an article that is titled "Ken Jennings is hosting Jeopardy this week, and the internet is furious." And that'll be the title of the article.
Yeah.
And they'll write this article and they'll say, former Jeopardy champion Ken Jennings is due up to host Jeopardy for the next 6 weeks as a guest host after Alex Trebek's tragic death due to cancer, with a link to an Alex Trebek video compilation or something on there.
Yeah, of him getting cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Just slowly deteriorating. And then it'll say, but some tweets from the game show contestants past have him in hot water with the internet. Users on Twitter are saying, and then it'll embed 2 tweets from 2 random Twitter accounts with 43 followers each that has 3 retweets. And it's like, I can't believe Ken Jennings made this ableist comment. What a fascist. Mm-hmm. And it'll be those 2 tweets that have no following whatsoever. But now this BuzzFeed article that says the internet is furious about Ken Jennings goes viral, and it gets retweeted, and then it amplifies the thing, and it's just this big jerk-off cycle because some guy with an audience of 12 said something, and BuzzFeed said, the internet is furious.
Yeah.
And it's what happens all the time.
For not ever clicking on these articles, you seem to know exactly the style and outline of every single one of them.
Gong.
Well, I guess your point...
Does that just mean shut up? Please stop. You're attacking me. You're hurting me.
You have successfully used the gong as part of cancel culture.
Gong, you're canceled. Your opinion is bullshit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've read them. I've read them. I know the structure. It's sad, but think about how cool those people feel that are ignored on the internet with no Twitter followers, and they get their day in the spotlight.
Because somebody at Vox.com was like, I don't know, I guess I'll just go on Twitter and scroll forever until I see something that's an article. Yeah. In my opinion.
I mean, that's funny that you think that there's that much dignity in it, and you don't think that that person created that account.
Yeah, probably.
Tweeted themselves.
So they could write it and be like, look at this person who's really upset on the internet. Yeah, that's probably true. So today we're talking about the Gong Show. Ken Jennings, I think you're a great man and a great patriot, and I hope you're the host of the show.
Sure. And we do that. We assume gender here on this show, and we will until the show is gone.
Oh, I think he knows. I think he's.
You think he knows?
Comfortably a man. So the Gong Show was a game show. It was created by Chuck Barris and hosted by Chuck Barris, who we've talked about before. He was the creator of the Newlywed Game, the dating game.
Okay. This is the first one he hosted, though?
I believe this is the first one he hosted, or at least the biggest one.
I think I would remember.
He didn't host either of those.
I would remember him. He's interesting.
Yes. So he also, I believe we talked about this during one of those episodes. In the early 80s, he wrote a book called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which was a alleged semi-autobiographical story about Chuck Barris in the 50s and 60s, prior to becoming a pioneer in the game show world, was a CIA assassin. And he wrote this book, and then it was later adapted into a movie directed by George Clooney, I believe. Sam Rockwell was in it.
Okay.
But, I mean, he's later admitted that, he was never in the CIA. Well, because when the book came out, the CIA came out, and they were like, this is ridiculous fiction. This man never worked for the CIA. But that's also exactly what the CIA would say if somebody wrote a book like that.
That's true.
But he confirmed that he never worked for the CIA. But yeah, that's the kind of weird, interesting person Chuck Barris was.
Yeah.
So there were many talent competition type of things in our society, in television and radio, prior to this show. And they decided, Chuck Barris and company, to take that idea and just push it to its wackiest, absurdist extreme. Mm-hmm. And that was the Gong Show. So it was a talent competition featuring just...
Talent is in parentheses.
Right. Just random acts. It could be a virtuoso piano player for one act, and then the next act is somebody trying to blow up a balloon with a banana in their ear.
Right.
Like,
it was America's Got Talent with a shoestring budget.
Right, but with just ridiculous things for the most part. Like, America's Got Talent, and I haven't watched a lot of it.
Yeah.
For Nick Cannon reasons.
And then cue the exact cue the exact perfect outline of what America's Got Talent is from someone.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. So every episode starts off with like a 30-second little clip. So America's Got Talent is very serious for the most part. Like, in the sense that they are affirming that they are trying to find the most talented people who will get, I think they get like a Vegas show or something.
Don't know.
I think that's the grand prize, like a contract for a Vegas show to perform their talent. Which some of them on there are literally just people doing like one little weird thing that does seem like a unique and or interesting talent. But like, who's going to pay to see a show of that?
A drunk person who's been gambling.
Okay, I guess that's fair. There you go. So this took that, and like I said, it pushed it to the extreme. It made it ridiculous. It took an idea from a radio program called Major Beau's Amateur Hour from
that title 1930s. Matches better with what I watched.
Okay, yeah. So that was a show in the 30s that was a legitimate talent competition type of show. Frank Sinatra was on it before he gained fame and notoriety. So it was like a real big thing. But they introduced the concept of the gong, of sending people off. So this show took it and adapted it, and that was the entire concept of the show. Was there was a giant gong, there were 3 judges, and then it was hosted by Chuck Barris, and there were performers throughout the show. So you start your performance. All the performances were about a minute and a half long or so.
Yeah.
And the main goal was to make it through your performance without being gonged.
Yeah, didn't want to gong.
One of the judges would pick up a mallet and run over to the gong and hit it, and you are done It's kind of like
Canceled.
the
You were canceled,
you're
essentially.
This is the beginning of cancel culture. It's kind of like the big shepherd's hook that they would pull you off stage with in the
Very
cartoons.
dangerous. Very dangerous.
But it was a different time. And so that was what the gong was for this show, and you were eliminated. If you made it through your entire performance, the judges would then give you a score 1 through 10 from each judge. Or 0 through 10, I guess, because I saw a few zeros.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the program, whichever act made it through to its conclusion and had the highest score was the winner of that episode.
Yep.
And
what did they win?
The prize for most of the run was the grand prize of $516.32.
And what is the reasoning behind that?
The supposed reasoning behind that was, I believe, Chuck Barris would call it a highly unusual amount. Yep. And the alleged reason behind that was at the time the day rate for a SAG-AFTRA employee.
Okay.
Was $516.32.
That's pretty awesome for in the 80s?
76 to 78.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
$500 a day?
Yeah. So that's what I said. I don't know if that's necessarily true. It sounds high to me.
Okay.
But that's alleged. That's what's alleged on the internet. But either way, it was a highly unusual number. And in subsequent revivals of this show, it has always been a weird number of the grand prize. And it has always been fairly nominal in the sense that it's like you're not going there to win the prize money.
Okay.
As I said, this aired on NBC from 1976 to 78. And then after it ended on NBC in 78, it aired in syndication until 1980. It was another one of the daily game shows.
Mm-hmm.
It originally aired at like 12:30 Eastern for the first year or so, and then it moved to 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, both of those times make sense for the show.
Okay. And it was a very weird show.
Agreed.
It pushed so many limits. It's kind of unbelievable that, again, this was on in the daytime when, like at the time, primarily housewives and stuff were watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
And children, I guess. It was just wild ass, whatever they wanted to do that day for 3 years on NBC and a couple more years in syndication.
It was controlled chaos at its finest.
Loosely controlled. It was, I think we've talked about, I feel like we said this about another somewhat recent episode that we did, but it was kind of like the Chris Gethard show in that it looked like somebody just gave somebody the keys to the kingdom and they did whatever they wanted on television.
Yeah.
And that's pretty appealing to me.
It gives you hope as somebody who doesn't have connections that, hey, I could put on a show. If I was just given the power and the resources, I think I could put on a show like this.
Yeah. And so, like I said, there was a lot of weird stuff about. So there was a guy named, at the end of the show when the winner was announced, a guy named Jerry Marin would run across the stage throwing confetti as balloons would drop from above. And the notable thing about him was that he was a little person and he was one of the munchkins from The Wizard of Oz who would just run across the stage throwing confetti at the end of every episode.
Yeah.
When they announced the winner.
So we can say Munchkin because it was a character name?
Yeah, like you can say Elf or whatever.
So there's never been a midget character name?
So my dad had a DVD of a movie.
I don't know if I want to hear the rest about this DVD.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, no, it wasn't midget. It was called The Terror of Tiny Town.
Okay.
And it was about, like, it was kind of like a Western. It was like from like 1930. It was highly offensive, I believe.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I feel like I've talked about this before, like in the not too distant past. but it was like a Western movie about all these little people
Okay.
who and in town like exclusively of little people in like a Western town, and they're attacked. I don't know by
Other little people?
I don't think it was other little people. I think it was what would we call
Miniature horses?
a non-little person that's not offensive.
Able-bodied.
But they're able-bodied.
Normal hips.
Weird. So yeah, maybe they were attacked by tall people. I don't remember.
Sure.
But it was like a 40-minute long, like black and white 1930s, just highly offensive type of thing. But yeah, sorry, I got down a rabbit hole. That I don't know. Maybe they called them midgets in that movie.
Anyway.
But anyway. So, and then at the end of the week on Fridays after the winner was announced, they would also name the worst performer of the week. And that person would also retroactively receive $516.32.
Oh, nice.
And a dirty tube sock.
Ew.
Well, don't be the worst performer of the week. If you just win the day, you get the $516.32 and a trophy instead of a dirty tube sock.
Well, to some people, a dirty tube sock is a trophy.
That's true.
A participation trophy.
There's a lot of people on the internet to which that would be a trophy from what I've seen. Oh, speaking of, our long national nightmare is over. That was the other big news this week.
What? A national nightmare?
OnlyFans has gone back on their claim of banning porn from their porn subscription site.
Right. Art. I call it art.
So for those of you not familiar, OnlyFans is a website in which creators, that's what they call them.
They are content. They are creating content.
Creators set up subscriptions to their services, which are image and video.
Explicit in nature.
And they are generally of the nude photography persuasion, of the pornographic sexual act
genre, yeah.
Sort of genre. And it has become very popular. It is especially with COVID and quarantine situations.
And just the existence of men.
Right. But I know like a lot of like strippers and sex workers and things like that when they became unable to perform their craft due to the COVID-19 pandemic, turned to OnlyFans to generate a steady income. And there are people making like hundreds of $1,000s a month from subscriptions because you can set your own subscription price and whatever. And OnlyFans announced that in order to continue growing as a brand, they were going to ban porn, which would basically be like ESPN wanting to grow as a brand, so they banned sports.
Here's what happened. They went to investors, and investors said, we want to give you billions of dollars. And the investors said, but you're probably going to have to, this is not a sustainable thing. We're angel investors. We're not, devil investors.
Wow.
So we need to make sure that when we put in our money somewhere, we want to represent, healthy content. And then they tried that with an announcement. And then the investors said, you know what? We tried and it didn't work out. So you guys can go ahead and move forward with what you were doing because we like money.
Yeah. It's the most ridiculous idea that in order to grow our porn company, we're going to ban porn and just make it a thing that has no discernible utility or differentiating factor at all.
Worse Patreon.
Right. And they were like trying to promote like, oh no, we've got all these family friendly videos, cooking videos and blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, and YouTube is free. So I have all those already.
Yeah.
There's not
I'll maybe pay for a master class. That's as close as I get to using your subscription software.
Yeah. So OnlyFans is back. That was the big news. The other big news of the week, aside from the continued Jeopardy saga.
Sure.
And the whole Afghanistan thing.
I think that we should.
Hurricane. Here's the bad news of speaking of this time period and of the Gong Show and the comedians that were on this show, because the guest judges were generally comedic in style. I would say the three typical judges were Jamie Farr, who he was on MASH as the cross-dressing Corporal Klinger. Phyllis Diller, noted comedienne with an E-N-N-E.
Mm-hmm.
And J.P. Morgan, stage name.
Love it.
Who was a pop singer in the 50s and 60s, basically. And they were kind of the three main judges, but there was a lot of rotating in of like other panel show type personalities and comedians and things like that. The other news, just late breaking as I arrived here, Ed Asner, noted comedian, noted star or co-star, I guess, of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, of his own spin-off show from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, of playing Santa Claus in Elf with Will Ferrell.
Oh, yeah.
Has died.
Okay. Much like the Gong Show, this episode is all over the place.
Big gong in the sky has been rung for Ed Asner.
Yeah.
And his time here is done.
Man, wouldn't that be great if there was an actual gong that was rung? So you're like, okay, we know they're dead for sure.
Yeah.
That was the gong.
That was the gong. God's calling Ed Asner up to the Mary Tyler Moore Show in the sky.
The gong is God's shepherd cane.
Yes. So speaking of talented individuals and how there was actual talent on this program, not quite Mary Tyler Moore, but Carol Burnett appeared on this show in character as Eunice Higgins, which was a character that she did on the Carol Burnett Show.
Okay.
To perform a song. There were performances by Paul Rubens before his big fame on the show.
Whoa.
Pee Wee Herman himself. The guy who was Bozo the Clown. There's a musical performance by Oingo Boingo, the band which I know I probably most know them
Is what
for
kids use
Weird
for the word
Science.
sex.
For the word sex, they use Oingo Boingo. They did the Weird Science song. Member of Oingo Boingo, Danny Elfman, noted film composer and scorer, like the Batman with Michael Keaton,
Or like
and
Ronaldo.
a lot of Tim Burton stuff. Danny Elfman did scores for, it seems, from my memory. Stanley Williams, who founded the Crips.
The gang?
The street gang, the Crips.
Uh-oh.
He was on there performing as a bodybuilder.
Do you think he did a TED talk on like how to start a gang?
Yeah,
Real like
a masterclass
on OnlyFans.
Yeah. Mayor Winningham.
Is it a horse?
It's not a horse. It sounds like a horse.
Oh.
The winning part, the winning, and the mayor part both sound horsey.
Right.
No, she's an actress who. She was on there as like a young, I don't know, probably like 18, 20-year-old. She sang the Beatles song Here, There, and Everywhere.
Okay.
And she later went on to win several Emmys, be an Academy Award nominated actress for the film Georgia. Never seen it, but it was like 95, 96, somewhere around there. But, most recently she was on The Outsider on HBO. I don't know if you watched that. Pretty good program. And also, 12-year-old Andrea McCardle appeared on the show. And then the next year, she originated the role of Annie on Broadway.
Yeah.
In the musical Annie.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's some real talented people on this show. There's also some real untalented people on this show.
I would say it was a 1 to 10 ratio.
Talent to not talent.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what the people wanted. The viewers of this program wanted bad people.
Wow.
Because it was fun, and it was funny, and it was off the wall. Murray Langston he performed on the show over 150 times as the unknown comic. Because
the guy with the paper bag on his head?
paper bag over his head. So he basically was a comedian that had done some TV work here and there, wasn't doing super well, kind of accepted the appearance fee for the Gong Show just to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But was very embarrassed by it. And so he asked the producers if he could perform with a paper bag over his head. And they said, yeah, that would be funny. And he's like, just don't say my name so I don't have to like own this, basically.
Yeah.
And like I said, he ended up appearing over 150 times on the show, performing stand-up comedy with a paper bag over his head, always just introduced as the unknown comic. People had no idea who it was until after the show went off the air, and because he would go, he like parlayed this into performances in other shows and things and tours as the unknown comic with the paper bag over his head.
Yeah.
And like they played it up, and like I watched one episode where in the middle of his set, because this show was just chaos and pandemonium, he was doing the set, and it's a lot of like cornball, cheesy, rapid fire jokes that he does. Like he was not trying to be an esteemed comedian in these performances. And just in the middle of it, a woman holding a baby runs on stage and says that he's the father of her baby, and Chuck Barris is like, how do you know he's the father? And she's like, he looks just like him. And then she reveals that the baby has a paper bag over his head.
Well, thank God he was a paper bag head and not a plastic bag.
Yeah. And then, he of course he follows that up with something like, oh, you get her in the sack one time. So
because it's paper sack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get it. So that they had all sorts of weird recurring bits like that all the time. There was a stagehand on the show that they would occasionally use to warm up the audience before the show started. A lot of shows have a warm-up comedian or warm-up performers of some sort to get everybody juices flowing, get everybody hyped up. And so this guy, whose name was Eugene Patton, he would do this little bit where he would do a really kind of goofy, half-hearted dance.
Okay.
And Chuck Barris really liked it and wanted him to do it on the show. And so they introduced him as Gene the Dancing Machine. And then basically every episode afterwards, Gene the Dancing Machine would just show up at some point in the middle of the episode by a random music cue. And Chuck Barris would always act like he was surprised that Gene the Dancing Machine was here to perform. And because it would, quote unquote, interrupt whatever was going on the show at that point in time. And he would just come on stage for a minute and do his weird dancing, and the guests and audience would get involved and go crazy. And that was Gene the Dancing Machine. And speaking of music, the music director of the show was a guy named Milton DeLugg.
Bad name.
Milton DeLugg.
Yeah, bad name.
You gonged his name.
Yeah, we gong his name for sure.
So Milton DeLugg, he was kind of he was involved in other Chuck Barris productions as kind of music coordinator and things like that. And when they started this show, Chuck Barris thought, like, this is like a serious music guy. I don't think he's a good fit for what we're doing here. But kind of just, had a pre-existing relationship contract with him, used him. Milton DeLugg ended up becoming like a key part of the show and would do bits back and forth with Chuck Barris, and ended up being like a very important part to the music and success of the show, because there's a lot of musical stuff on this show. And so he would always cue. It was I believe it was like a Count Basie medley that Gene the Dancing Machine would dance to, that Milton DeLugg had arranged. And he would sometimes play characters and do things on stage as well for the show.
Man, jack of all talents.
Trades is what
Jack of all talents.
Okay.
This is a talent show, right?
Okay, yeah.
Why would I say this is not a trade show, right?
I'm sorry. So Chuck Barris played the hosting gig very loosey-goosey and aloof to a certain extent. Like he, especially at this time, all these game show hosts, definitely all talent show host type of people, were very buttoned up, nice sharp suit or tuxedo for their hosting gig, etc. Chuck Barris would often be quite unbuttoned, disheveled looking. He would sometimes just wear random other clothes that didn't look like a quote unquote TV host at all. He just would let go and have some fun with it. He kind of appeared like he was drunk or high a lot of the time.
For sure looked like he was high.
He has claimed that even like to his death, which was just a few years ago,
he died of overdose of marijuana.
Yeah, that he was never under the influence on the show. He just
there's no way somebody is just like, okay, so either there's one other person that acts like that, and it's Matthew McConaughey, and we know Matthew McConaughey in his youth smoked drugs. He smoked drugs, and
Milton to drugs.
You can't tell me, Gong, that. You cannot tell me that, what was his name? Chuck Barris?
Chuck Barris, yeah.
Was not high. The second I started season 1, episode 1, he looked like he was absolutely stoned out of his mind.
Claims he wasn't. Just letting you know. Also claims he was a CIA assassin.
And there we go. And so there's a validity issue with his statements.
Says you. So his kind of catchphrases, like when he would throw it to a commercial, he would say frequently, "We'll be right back with more stuff."
Yeah.
And at the end of the show, he would frequently say, "This is me saying bye." So he would just kind of play it like he had no idea what he was doing and just played into that character of the whole program, really, which was just absurdity and nonsense and fun. And I think a lot of people loved it. I think especially at this period of time, there was a lot of, pushback on the societal norms. This was only a few years after like the Summer of Love and all sorts of rebellion and Vietnam protesting and things like that. There was a big pushback on society and the buttoned up culture of the world. So I think this kind of played off of that and played into that in terms of what made it popular and successful, is that it just did whatever the fuck it wanted to do.
Yeah, it did.
And I personally admire that. So like there was one episode in which every single act was a different person performing the song Feelings. Feelings.
Yeah.
Every single act for the entire episode was a different person performing that song.
Yeah.
Because they just thought it would be funny to have an episode where every single performance was somebody singing the song Feelings.
I mean, it's goofy as hell, that's for sure.
It's funny. It's some sort of stupid thing that we would probably do. And it would get rejected by anybody that we proposed it to.
Correct.
So a lot of the stuff was getting them in some hot water for like pushing the boundaries in terms of censorship and double entendre and sexuality and things like that, because they very much leaned into that irreverent type of humor as much as they could. And so they kind of were getting a slap on the wrist by NBC, who was airing the show for some of this stuff. And so what Chuck Barris started doing was he would, and we've heard this sort of stuff before from comedy writers or directors submitting movies to the MPAA or things like that. He would put up acts as sacrificial lambs that were like way over the top of what the line would be.
Yeah.
So that things that would otherwise be considered pushing the boundaries would seem tame in comparison, so that the censors would reject those acts and let the other ones slip through.
Yeah. Smart.
Until one time where in 1978, an act that he proposed, I think expecting it to get rejected, was approved.
Okay.
And they called it Have You Got a Nickel was the name of the performance. And the performance was then two teenage girls came out and sat cross-legged on the stage with popsicles and ate the popsicles in a somewhat suggestive manner while music played. And that was the entire performance, was just them licking and sucking on popsicles.
Was it a fun like the Chesterfield type of music to up tempo, or was it more of like a slow jazz situation?
It was a little in the middle. It wasn't necessarily like a
Imagine
sexual
Dragons
connotation type. Yeah, it was an Imagine Dragons song. You back me up and
breathing in the chemicals. Oh wait, that's probably not good for that though.
So yeah, they would go down in notoriety as the Popsicle Twins. They did not appear to be twins or related at all from my viewing of it. Mm-hmm. And I've watched a lot of times just to check
for research.
Yeah. And it was not gonged, I believe, because then this would happen a lot of times on the show. If one person was going to try and gong, people would try and like tackle them and intercept them and stop them from gonging it, the other judges.
Yeah.
So I believe Phyllis Diller intended to gong the Popsicle Twins, and Jamie Farr kind of picked her up and carried her across the stage to where she couldn't. So they finished their performance. Phyllis Diller gave them a 0. Jamie Farr gave them a 2. And then J.P. Morgan gave them a 10, saying that was how she got her start in show business as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there was a bit of an uproar over this afterwards. Mm-hmm. NBC was not happy about this. I believe the West Coast broadcast, it was cut from.
Ooh.
And so Chuck Barris and co were kind of on thin ice with these guys. There was also a kind of recurring bit where J.P. Morgan would, when things started getting crazy, would pretend to start to strip, and then somebody would stop her, kind of like they would stop people from gonging.
Yeah. And
then one day, not too long after the Popsicle Twins in 1978, Gene the Dancing Machine was performing, and J.P. Morgan unbuttoned her shirt, and nobody jumped in to stop her, so she just pulled her shirt open to reveal her breasts.
What?
And then she was banned from being on the show anymore after that because of the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So she was taken off the show, and then a few weeks later, NBC said, we're canceling the show after next week or whatever. The show's done.
Dang.
So they went into their finale knowing that it was the finale of the show because NBC was canceling it. And so Chuck Barr turned the hosting duties for that show over to a random staff member who hosted it. And then they introduced an act, which ended up being Chuck Barr playing a modified version of the, at the time, recently popular Johnny Paycheck song called Take This Job and Shove It.
Ooh.
With modified lyrics to apply to his situation with the Gong Show and NBC.
Why would you need to modify those lyrics? It's pretty clear.
Right. And I think to make them a little more specific.
Got it.
And ended with him flipping off NBC
Whoa.
from the stage there.
Seems like a bridge burning situation.
Yeah, a little bit. And then, so that was the end of it on NBC. It continued for a couple more years in syndication. But after another show that we talked about, a Chuck Barris show, Three's a Crowd, the show in which a man's wife and secretary would compete to determine who knew more about the man. After the uproar, the backlash from that show, it kind of led to a wave of cancellation of other Chuck Barris properties,
yeah,
including the syndicated version of the Gong Show. So that was the end of Chuck Barris and the Gong Show, or so you thought.
Wait a minute.
Because our very, very first episode, we talked about 21. We talked about the film Quiz Show that was made about the quiz show scandal on 21. I don't think we've ever talked about a game show before that has a movie of the game show, however.
Wait a minute.
Until today.
Yeah?
Because in 1980, the Gong Show movie released in theaters.
Oh my gosh.
Which was a film, kind of a week in the life of Chuck Barris, with Chuck Barris playing himself.
Okay.
As he goes through a week of tapings of the Gong Show while he progressively goes through a mental breakdown.
Oh no.
And that's the plot of the movie, and it includes some like cut footage from the Gong Show, some audition footage from the Gong Show, real life stuff interspliced with the fictional narrative of the movie, including the uncensored version of the J.P. Morgan stripping scene, and a lot of other stuff that was kind of not allowed to be on the air in uncensored format for one reason or another. And it debuted over Memorial Day weekend in 1980, and two other movies premiered that same weekend. The Empire Strikes Back and The Shining.
Right.
So obviously,
both duds.
The Gong Show movie debuted at number 2, behind The Empire Strikes Back and ahead of The Shining.
Wow.
And I don't know if it had to do with like movie theater count or but it made like $2 million opening weekend.
That's pretty not bad.
Not bad for the 70s for sure. But it was critically reviled. I've ordered it on Amazon on Blu-ray.
There are 37 reviews.
There are 37 on Rotten Tomatoes.
On Amazon.
The Blu-ray
for
on
the Blu-ray.
Amazon?
Yeah.
I ordered it.
Okay.
So I'll let you know when I watch it how wonderful.
I don't know if it's going to be wonderful, my dude.
It is. Because it never had a home video release until a few years ago on Blu-ray, the very first home video release. So not many game shows have competed with The Empire Strikes Back before. The Gong Show has, in a way. It had another syndicated revival with a different host in the late 80s, and it was kind of a one-off thing that didn't last very long. It had a game show network. I believe we talked about this a few weeks ago. Extreme Gong was a game show network show, again, for like a year or so. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have anything that made it any more extreme than the original version. Comedy Central did a Gong Show with Dave Attell in 2008.
Ooh, Dave Attell.
And then most recently, in 2017, ABC aired a revival of the Gong Show that I felt like kind of really took it back to its roots for the most part. It was hosted by Tommy Maitland, an unknown British comedian, because it was Mike Myers.
No way.
Playing a character named Tommy Maitland that was an unknown British comedian. And in all of the promotion of this show, it was hosted by Tommy Maitland. It was never advertised as Mike Myers being on the show.
Yeah.
It was always Tommy Maitland. In the credits for the show, the host is Tommy Maitland, executive producer Tommy Maitland. The entire thing was just set up to where they were only crediting Tommy Maitland for all this. He obviously had prosthetics and stuff on, if you saw him. It didn't look anything like Mike Myers, so I mean, in that sense it was good, but it was obviously a person in disguise. And I think at the time it was fairly well known on the internet, at least, that it was Mike Myers. I remember watching it and knowing in advance that it was Mike Myers hosting it.
Yeah.
But he did like talk shows and stuff as Tommy Maitland in character the entire time.
Yeah.
And so he adopted some of the Chuck Barris isms, like the more stuff coming, but he also had his own "Who's a cheeky monkey" was his tagline, which was a weird thing. But this was, like I said, very similar to the original Gong Show in the sense of crazy off the wall acts. It didn't get as into some of the like pushing the limit type of stuff as that did, as we've changed as a society and we now have to listen to all of our authority figures and the government state security programs and the corporate media and things like that. So it didn't push the limits in as many fun ways, but it did have a lot of fun comedian type Ken Jeong, Zach Galifianakis, Fred Armisen as judges. It was produced by Will Arnett. Will Arnett was a judge on a lot of the episodes. So that lasted for 2 years, I think 2017 and 2018. And I think the prize monies were $2,000.17 and $2,000.18 for those 2 years. And it was fun. It's just a different time period where I don't think, especially as a big time network ABC primetime television show, which is what it was. Yeah. I don't think that's the audience for something like that anymore. It's almost like a weird like Twitch is where I feel like something like that could live and be successful. Yeah. Something, off the beaten path of what a major corporate sponsor is.
I mean, it would have to be your own
and trying to be successful.
Yeah, you would have to be somebody putting it on the show themselves through. It needs
to be on IFC
a platform. Yeah,
like
that was the only way that Chris Gethard show had a chance was IFC.
Right, it has to be somewhere where they don't care about control and you can just do whatever you want, because that was what the original Gong Show was,
and that's what America was.
Whoa. You could just do
a couple decades ago
in the 70s.
You could do whatever you want. In the 1800s, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Let's go back to those times. I don't want good healthcare. Okay. I want people dying when they're 30 years old. Okay. Nobody needs to be 70 years old.
23% of women should die in childbirth. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Gong.
No.
Should I gong me?
No. Let's make it men.
Dying in 23%
of men died during childbirth.
Just watching. Oh my god.
Oh no.
Oh, well, I couldn't do that. Dead.
I'm gonna die.
Oh, there were a couple times where every single person on the original show got gonged, and so nobody won.
That actually happened?
Yep. Just gong, 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 gong. That gong, 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 gong.
Yeah. Don't gong that.
Thank you.
No. Put gongs over your voice when you say gong, okay. But
I'm sure that
so
that
people
will
know
edit out very well.
Those weren't gongs.
Plainly.
Those weren't bad gongs.
Got it. So, yeah, that's the Gong Show. I don't know. Do you have suggestions for improving the Gong Show?
I have one suggestion.
What's that?
Drunk Paula Abdul needs to be a host.
A judge or
a judge? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
That's what would be my only. I think she would meld well with the chaos happening on the show.
Yeah, I feel like it needs to be wheels off. Like again, I felt like the original version was a lot more wheels off than the revived version. I felt like Mike Myers tried to push it towards being as wheels off as possible, but it's probably a little difficult. And I also feel like just the type of celebrities that you get now don't lend itself to being as wheels off. We've talked about this before. First of all, you don't have like the recurring, like these people were on 100 something episodes in a couple years as guest judges on this show. You're not getting people like that kind of like build that rapport every single day with the audiences at home. And you're getting people that are a lot more concerned about their public image, and they've got all these PR people that work for them and their managers that are pushing them in a certain way that I feel like it's just hard to get. There are a few people that I think you could get that would really push it and be wheels off all the time. but I think that's a pretty small number. And again, just due to logistics and stuff, it's a lot more difficult to make something like that happen. And it's a weekly show it's a weekly show during the summer for 8 weeks or something like that, instead of almost every day, every weekday.
Yeah. It would have to be like an older comedian who has lived their life and don't care about rules or getting canceled.
Right. Like JP Morgan, she was like, I don't know, she was like 48 or something. And she's like, yeah, whatever. I'll just flash my tits on the show because I think that'll be really funny. Yeah. And I'm not a singer anymore of any note, whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just having fun with this. This is what I do. And that's kind of like what you got on the Match Game in the 70s as well, with Richard Dawson and Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah.
I think that's what made those type of shows great and entertaining. So if you had 5 buzzers to give the gong, 5 gongs.
Yeah.
How many gongs are you giving this show?
I'm going to give it 4 middle fingers.
Oh, okay.
Respectfully.
Right.
As this will be our first and last show on the Gong Show.
Maybe.
So, did you hear that?
Yeah, was that your stomach?
Yeah.
That was loud.
Yeah.
Is it because of the lunch thing?
Yeah, I wonder if we picked it up. I give it 4 middle fingers, respectfully, because I think that it did a good job of being chaotic, but also entertaining. I really liked that they didn't parade the bad performers forever, like how they kind of milk it out on America's Got Talent or the Voice, all that stuff. I don't know if the Voice does it anymore, but whatever it was called, that show where they would
X Factor
have like an autistic person come in and sing, and they would just like gawk at them. And
yeah, I don't know if it was The Voice, but like
the Voice,
American Idol and the
American
X Factor,
Idol, yeah,
that sort of stuff.
Right. So they would let this person perform. They would perform poorly. The judges would have a quick quip and their bad score, and they would walk them off stage. I would have given them a lower score if that was the situation where they would sit there and make fun of this person. I didn't like that Chuck and sometimes other people would say stuff where you could hear them moving around during the performance.
Oh, yeah.
Because you would have that, but then I just realized after watching more episodes, that's just kind of the vibe in that show. Yeah. You're going to have people screaming from the audience. You're going to have the judges saying stuff. So 4. Okay,
I'm going to give it 4.5 JP Morgan breasts.
Ooh, okay.
Because this was a show that I remember as somebody who was born in 1986. I remember discovering in the mid 90s as it reran on Game Show Network. And, you know, as like a 9 or 10 year old being like, this is insane. This is so cool that there's, you know, you're especially like at that age, you're rebelling against the rules, the confines of what mom and dad and teacher want you to do. So just seeing a show where, again, it was just pandemonium most of the time, and a lot of the acts were intentionally bad or whatever, was just entertaining to me. So I've got some fond memories of learning about this show as a youth, and revisiting it as an adult. I respect the hell out of it. And it's fun, and it's silly, and for those reasons it's got 4.5 JP Morgan breasts.
Yeah,
she's still alive.
Cool. Are her breasts?
TBD.
Okay.
Chuck Barris is dead. Died 4 years ago, 2017, right before the premiere of the
that's probably for the best.
Tommy Maitland version.
Probably for the best.
Maybe. But yeah, that was the Gong Show. We hope you guys check it out. It's another one of those. I don't know how this isn't on like Buzzer on Amazon Prime, because this is like a classic. It's also really hard to find any more of the Mike Myers version. Like even on YouTube, it's very difficult to find those. You can find a lot of the Chuck Barris stuff on YouTube, but the Mike Myers version is very, very hard to find. I guess probably the producers of that
kept it
copyright striked it and whatnot. But I did watch that at the time it was airing. So yeah, The Gong Show, look into it, check it out. Go watch the Popsicle Twins do their thing. And
on OnlyFans.
I'll give you a quick update on the quality of the movie when I watch it in the next couple weeks.
Okay, good.
So we'll revisit slightly. Yes, this has been Come On Down Show. I've done this 2 weeks in a row. Come On Down, the game show podcast.
Hosted by.
We already introduced
did
ourselves.
that part.
Check it out on Instagram or whatever if you want. I don't know. Just check it out on YouTube or podcast apps because that's where it lives.
That is where it lives.
That's where you're hearing or seeing this right now.
Yeah, unless you're a fly in this room and you're seeing it live.
And if you are a fly, make sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next week. Gong. I'll put that in there.
You can put an actual gong. And then put one there too.
Okay.